In this video, I want to show how thinking clouds our emotions and how, for the first 2 years of our lives, we were Zen masters. Emotions came and went. They were pure, they were unfiltered, undirected by the thinking mind. And at 2, something strange happened that would literally change the course, not just of our lives, but of what it means to be human. This abstraction machine of the left brain suddenly turned on, and we learned language. And we started to think. Now, most people, if you ask them, well, why did language evolve? They would say, so we can communicate. But if you look at Noam Chomsky, literally the world's greatest living expert on language, he actually says that modern research has a different answer. And it didn't evolve to communicate, it evolved so we could think. So thinking and language co-evolved together. And once that happened, thinking, particularly in our culture, took over. Now thinking directs our emotion. And you can see this in it's an old theory, but I think it's a really good one in terms of how the thinking mind directs and controls emotion. And it's called the two-factor theory. The famous study was in the 60s by Schachter and Singer. And what they did is they gave people a shot of epinephrine. So that stimulated the nervous system. Half the people were told to expect the side effects of your heart racing and all this. The other half were not told. And in the group that were not told, of course, in the first group, they knew what the source of their heart beating fast was. But in the second group, when they had no clue, their left brain is in the dark, they looked outward, and they had confederates, people who were playing along with the experiment, actors. And in one condition, these people would act euphoric. And so they were like building like paper footballs and all this and just really super happy. And in the other condition, they were really angry and upset with the experiment. And so the left brain, when it has no clue why the heart's beating fast and you're sweating, it looks out, and when you see someone who's super happy, you create the emotion that you must be happy. When you look out and someone's really angry, you create the emotion that you must really be angry. And so that's such a clear case. The two-factor. One is the arousal of the body. The other is a cognitive interpretation. But when you go back, what happened before we were thinking? So what would a 1.5-year-old? They don't have the cognitive interpretation online yet. So that shows that there is something to emotions before we started thinking about them. Something Zen-like. So we were all these Zen masters who did not have thought at one point. And so, okay, well, what do we do with this? How do we get back to the experience of emotion without emotion being kind of hijacked or taken over by the thinking mind and directed by its interpretations of the world? Well, nothing less than a complete deconstruction of the thinking process, which I've been doing now for at least a few years. But outside of that project, one is just the recognition of how thinking can direct your emotions, how thinking has taken over as the main GPS system that we use to guide our lives. And when we recognize that thinking isn't quite as brilliant and amazing guide to reality as it thinks it is, once we can turn that down a little bit, you'll see that there are these interesting emotions behind the scene that you haven't even experienced yet until you stop letting thoughts determine your reality.